Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Baruch Ha'bayim. Before we even begin, I just want to start by saying that this past week on Vav Tammuz, one of the Shiurim was Le'iloi Nishmas Hagoyin Reb Simcha ben Lieberman, whose yahrzeit was Vav Tammuz, and at the time I just said the name, but I didn't give it the proper eminence that this was one of the Gedolei Rabbanim and the author of many Svarim that are entitled B'Shvilei, which I've quoted from many times. And Be'ezus Hashem, his neshama should have a continuous aliyah b'Gan Eden and should be a me'ils yosher for the whole mishpacha, for simchas hanachas b'suras toivos, ad b'yas goel tzedek. And Be'ezus Hashem, we should continue to be neneh from his svarim and his ga'inus. Okay, as you know, that this weekend is our annual campaign, Machon Maggid Harakiah, charity.com/MMH, charity, CHARIDY.com/MMH, Machon Maggid Harakiah. Okay, I have a very interesting topic today. I try to get a hold of most of the original Mar Mekaymes. Not all the Svarim are available. I'm still waiting on one of them, but I didn't get a call back yet. The Sugya is a very interesting Sugya. We really learned it very quickly. It sort of slipped in here, where the Gemara says on Daf Tzadi Vav Amud Aleph, Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, Kol Malacha Isha Oisel Labala Amano Oisel Liyarshim. And then the Gemara slips in something very interesting. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Kol Malachos Sheha Oisel Rabbi Talmid Oisel Rabbi. Any malacha that a slave does for his master, a student does for his master, chutz mehataras mino, except for taking off his shoes. The reason is that he's going to look like an Eved Kanani. Amar Rava lo amran el b'makom she'ein makirin oisai. This is only if they don't recognize the student, so they might think he's an Eved. Makom she'makirin oisai les lamba. In a place where they recognize him, there's no issue. Amar Rav Ashi v'makom she'ein makirin oisai nami lo amran ela dulai manach tefillin. And in a place where they don't recognize him, it's also only an issue if the student's not wearing tefillin. Manach tefillin less laba. If he's wearing tefillin, everybody knows that the student is not an Eved. So the Gemara says something very interesting. The Gemara says that whatever malachos a slave does for his master, a student does for the Rebbi. Now the Gemara doesn't say, is the student required to do it for the Rebbi, or is the student allowed to do it for the Rebbi? What does the Gemara even mean? Why would it not be allowed? Well, maybe it's not allowed. Maybe because the student may look like an Eved, and it's going to put into question his lineage. Is that all the Gemara is saying, or is the Gemara saying he's obligated to? Simply, it seems like the student has obligations of service to the Rebbe, but not in a situation where he's putting his lineage in question. And the Achronim, more the contemporary Achronim, deal with the fact that, do we ever find an obligation of service to a father and mother? Are you obligated to serve your father and mother? Are you obligated? In other words, it says all the malachos that a slave does for his master, a student does for his Rebbe. Why doesn't the Gemara say all the obligations that a slave does for his master, a child is obligated to do for his father? So it's very interesting that we find in halacha there are really three categories of kavod. There's kibud avaim, there's kavod rabbi, and then there's kavod to a kohen. Are they similar? Are they different? Do they have different parameters? We're going to focus today more on what is the reason that one is it permissible to serve a Rebbe, or is it obligatory to serve a Rebbe? Then the Gemara says, Amar Reb Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol hamoinea talmidim l'shamsha ki l'monea mimenu chased. If you don't allow the student to serve the Rebbe, it's like you're withholding chesed from him. The Gemara says, Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Af poirek mimenu yiras shamayim. You're casting off the fear of heaven. Shenemar v'yiras shaka ya'azov. Now, what exactly is this chesed that you're preventing from the student? Is the chesed the lack of yiras shamayim that the student will not get by not serving the master? What exactly is this inyan of shimush l'rabbi? Okay, so we have a few interesting sources on this. Let's start with Minchas Asher in Parshas Emor. Gidrei hakavod hashonim. Hine shloisha him shenistavinu lechabdem. There are three people we have to honor. B'mitzvah satar avaim, father and mother, Rav and Talmid Chacham, a Rebbe, a Torah sage, and a Kohen. Loi harezeh kaharezeh. They are three distinct groups. V'geder hakavod shoinahu b'chol echad mishlosh elam, and the parameters of honor are different by all three. Kefi sheyesh lilmoid mehilchoseiam v'dikdukeim, based on the way we learn their halachos and their exactitudes. Number one, kibud avayim gidroi v'inyan l'sham sham l'sapik tzarcheim. What does it mean to honor your father and mother? The answer is, it's to provide them with their needs. Your father needs food, your mother needs drink, they need clothing, to provide them with their needs. Umishum kach amru chachamim ma'achilai mashkeyu marchitzai. The guideline of honoring a parent is providing the parent what the parent needs. By a Rebbe, you don't feed a Rebbe. No mitzvah to feed a Rebbe. He's hungry, so you bring your Rebbe food. That's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah, says Rabbi Asher Weiss, is kavod rabbi b'talmid chacham inyanai hachna v'hisbatlos b'fneihem. It is humbling oneself and nullifying one's entity, where you negate your view and your persona. Mishum kach matzinu kamalacha she'eved oisel rabban talmid oisel rabbi, where basically there's a requirement of service to a Rebbe that borders avdos ad kedei kach, that just don't go so far as to make it look like you're an Eved, because someone's going to question your lineage. We don't find such a thing by father and mother, that you need to be mishamesh them ke'eved. No halacha like that. It's misapeg tzarchem, you provide their needs. But v'lo metzino halacha zu b'kibud avayim. Kavod chachamim, Rav Asher Weiss says in Yanai roimemos v'kidashtai, to elevate them. That's how we give them first dibs. Rav Asher Weiss says that it's permitted for a Talmid Chacham, the Gemara Nedarim says, to say, I'm a Talmid Chacham, so that he should go first. So the Gemara says, you know why? Because a Talmid Chacham is called a Kohen, and just like it's a mitzvah to give the Kohen first, mitzvah to give a Talmid Chacham. That's mashma, if not for the fact that Talmid Chacham is called a Kohen, there would be no kedima by a Talmid Chacham. What do you mean? You have to honor him? The answer is, of course you have to honor him. The mitzvah of honoring a Talmid Chacham is a mitzvah of hachna v'hisbatlos. So there are different guidelines based on the parameters, based on the conceptual idea. So a Kohen, the inyan is to elevate. A Rebbe, the inyan is to be machnia. By a father and mother, inyan is l'shamsham l'sapeg tzarcheim. Now, Rav Asher Weiss says there are many commonalities. There is kavod by all three, and they might share. But this is how he, so to speak, outlines the difference between kavod rabbi and kavod aviv. There's a sefer. What's the name of this sefer? It is called Kesav Ish. Who wrote it? Not sure. It's also contemporary sefer. He brings Kol malacha she'eved ois rabbi taman ois rabbi chus me'atar zinov v'yesh li'yan ihani malacha is chiyav gomerhin. Are you obligated to serve the Rebbe? Or is it just fitting to? The Rambam is not mashma, it's not conclusive that it's obligatory. V'i nema the chiyavhu harei deshema yikru eved hu poiter mehai malacha. If there's an obligation, then if they're going to call you an eved, then you're exempt. If it's just fitting to, then if they're going to call you an eved, it might be usr. Is it usr to tie your Rebbe shoes? Or meaning, is the pshat, if it's normally a chiyuv, but if they're going to call you an eved, it's an exemption. If it's just roi to, then maybe it's usr to show avdus. Now he brings that by kibbut avayim, all the malachos that you have to do for a father are obligations, not roi. It's not roi to bring your father food. It's not roi to bathe. It's not roi to give to drink. It's chiyuv. He's medayik by hilchos kibbut avayim. The Rambam says machel o mashka, and by hilchos rabbi he doesn't say chiyuv. He just says v'chol malachos oiseh. Even though he does say chayiv lahakbil pnei rabbi b'moyed, so it's not clear whether when the Gemara says you do for your Rebbe, is it a obligation or is it just ra'oi to? Now he has another interesting chakira. So what exactly are you doing? You're providing. You're being machnia. He says something very interesting. The mitzvah to the Rebbe is not to do the malacha. It's not, okay, an Eved brings the Rebbe's towel to the bathhouse, so you bring the Rebbe's towel to the bathhouse. But the mitzvah is not bringing the towel. The mitzvah is a way of showing yourself ke'avdoi. Avaloy al etzem hashimush. By the way, okay. That's why there's a concern here. You see, we never find by kibbut avayim, don't tie your father's shoe, they might think you're an eved. No. Because the mitzvah is to tie the shoe. It's not to show yourself as an eved. So there's no chash you're going to show yourself as an eved. But by rabbi, the mitzvah is to show yourself like an eved. So that's why there's a chash. It's just the actions are the way you do it. Rabbi Elyashiv has a different take on this. Rabbi Elyashiv's take is, he brings, it's quoted in the Sefer Torah Chacham. Couldn't get a hold of the Sefer. He brings from Rabbi Elyashiv that this inyan of Shimush Talmud L'Rav is not midin kavod. It's a separate inyan. And that is, I believe there's a Gemara in Baba Kama that one of the Amoraim had a question. So the Amora said, carry this to the bathhouse for me, and then he explained it to him. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz explains that so long as you're not meshamish the rabbi, you can't fully understand because you don't have the sufficient hachna. But the purpose of being meshamesh is kedei lilmoid mimenu, meaning it's not midin kavod. So Rav Asher Weiss is learning the Rav Asher Weiss is learning the inyan of Shimush Harav is to show his batlas. Rav Elyashiv is learning the inyan of Shimush is kedei lilmoid mimenu shegadol shimusha yoser milimudai. That's why there's no inyan of shimush to a father, because the purpose is not to learn from the father. The purpose is to provide the father. You could say that this is very similar in Lamdas to what Rabbi Asher Weiss is saying. In other words, why is there a mitzvah of hisbatlos? The reason is in order to come lilmaid mimenu. The bottom line is just the nekuda is that the mitzvah of kavod rabbi has different parameters than kavod aviv. Rabbi Asher Weiss says it's because kavod aviv is l'sapek tzarchai, kavod rabbi is l'hisbatel etzlai. Rabbi Elyashiv says it's kedei lilmod mimenu. Maybe they're really one and the same, that in order to fully learn, one has to be nisbatal. Anyway, that's just something to think about on Daf Tzadi Vav Amud Aleph. What?
Isn't that good for what the Gemara is saying? It's called Hamani and Talmid on Elyashiv, right? You're preventing him from that there are things that you learn from your Rav by being Mishamish. That's exactly good for what the Gemara is saying.
That's the chesed. The chesed is because it's you're taking away from his learning.
And the Yerushalayim, that by being Mishamish his Rav, he's going to learn Yerushalayim. So by preventing him from doing that, then you're preventing from teaching him certain things.
Right.
That's good what we're saying.
So right. So maybe that could be used to add on to it with what Rabbi Elyashiv is saying. So the Iyun of Shimush Rabbi, it's not only kedei lilmod mimenu. Not just that when you're mishamish, you'll understand better the Torah that the rabbi teaches, but you'll also be able to learn from the rabbi his level of avodas Hashem and Yerushalayim. That's being nichla on what Rabbi Elyashiv is saying is kedei lilmod mimenu Torasai and kedei lilmod mimenu his Yerushalayim. And that's what your moinea chesed, your moinea, the student's growth. Yeah, very good. Okay, friends, thanks for joining. Be'ezus Hashem, daven that the campaign goes good, so that maybe we could even get ahead this week. Thank you. Hatzlach, everyone. Have a great day. Kol tov.
Recording stopped.